Greetings, citizens of the world. We are anonymous. Well, Minister Sergei Lavrov, yesterday, refused outgoing U.S. Ambassador John Teft's urgent demand that the incoming Trump administration be denied Federal Security Service historical files relating to American-Hungarian billionaire George Soros, the 19th richest person in the world worth $24.9 billion, due to Obama regime fears that President-elect Donald Trump's plan to charge this former World War II Nazi collaborator as being a threat to the national security of the United States would cause needless chaos to erupt within the American political environment. This past Friday, January 6th, Minister Lavrov received a formal diplomatic notice from the Trump transition team requesting that any and all files and investigative documents in the current possession of the FSB relating to the World War II actions and activities of George Soros be provided to them, and cited as their U.S. legal authority to make this request the March 6, 2014 executive order that carries the full force of law, signed by President Barack Obama, titled Blocking Property of Certain Persons Contributing to the Situation in Ukraine, that, in part, says, I, Barack Obama, President of the United States of America, find that the actions and policies of persons that undermine democratic processes and institutions in Ukraine, threaten its peace, security, stability, sovereignty, and territorial integrity, and contribute to the misappropriation of its assets, constitute an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security and foreign policy of the United States, and I hereby declare a national emergency to deal with that threat. In supporting documents attached to this diplomatic request, the Trump transition team asserts that 25 days after the signing of this executive order by President Obama, on March 31, 2014, U.S. diplomatic cables show that Soros did indeed work to undermine the processes and institutions in Ukraine, becoming, in fact, the de facto ruler of this nation, and who in a meeting with U.S. Ambassador to Ukraine Jeffrey Pyatt, laid the basis for war by his stating that the federalization plan being marketed by Putin to Merkel and Obama would result in Russia gaining influence and de facto control over eastern regions in Ukraine. The federalization plan, similar to the States of America, for Ukraine, supported by President Putin, Chancellor Merkel, and President Obama, would have created a peaceful transition of power in this nation, but due to Soros' illegal intervention has, instead, led to mass conflict and bloodshed, costing the lives of an estimated 9,600 men, women and children. As to why President Obama himself didn't charge Soros as being a threat to the national security of the United States after he grossly violated this executive order, was due to Soros flooding Obama's and Hillary Clinton's Democratic Party with a staggering $100 million in donations, and that turned this once respected political party known as the Party of Jefferson into what it is known today, the Soros Party, and that has, in fact, destroyed it. Beginning in 2004, Soros began his takeover of the Democratic Party, going to war against the American people and their democracy by declaring that it is the central focus of my life and a matter of life and death, and vowing that he would become poor if it meant defeating the President of the United States, but whose efforts ended in defeat, for both him and the Democratic Party itself, but that he did transform into the liberal leftist communistic political organization it now is. Going into this latest 2016 U.S. presidential election, Soros redoubled his efforts to destroy the United States, with his becoming Hillary Clinton's top donor and puppet master, but like in 2004, the American people rejected his globalist open society vision, turning, instead, to Donald Trump to become their next leader. With his puppet Hillary Clinton being defeated, however, and his now wholly owned communistic Democratic Party losing all power too, Soros now has turned all of his financial might against President-elect Trump, saying that democracy is now in crisis because the American people elected a con artist and would-be dictator as its president, and has, likewise, this past week declared another war against all Christian nations, vowing to topple all pro-life, anti-abortion, laws in every Catholic country throughout the world. Having developed an ominous reputation as a greedy billionaire in the early 1990s, when he single-handedly caused an economic crisis in England by betting against the British pound, Black Wednesday, making him over $1 billion at the expense of British people whose lives and economy he crushed. An FSB addendum to this report states, Soros has previously been called by the 60 Minutes news program as mysterious, and who in this interview with US reporter Steve Croft gleefully admitted that 1944, at the height of World War II, was the happiest year of his life, when he made his fortune confiscating the property of Jews sent by the Nazis to concentration camps to be slaughtered. Here are some of the words in the interview. Steve Croft: my understanding is that you went out with this protector of yours who swore that you were his adopted godson. George Soros: yes. Yes. Steve Croft: went out, in fact, and helped in the confiscation of property from your fellow Jews, friends, and neighbors. George Soros: yes. That's right. Yes. Steve Croft: I mean, that sounds like an experience that would send lots of people to the psychiatric couch for many, many years. Was it difficult? George Soros: no, not at all. Not at all, I rather enjoyed it. Steve Croft: no feelings of guilt. George Soros: no, only feelings of absolute power. With Soros' world now falling apart all around him, he has now begun using President Putin as a bogeyman in order to deflect away from his many crimes, and who is being supported in the US by Republican Senator John McCain, who Soros has funded since 2001, Republican Senator Lindsey Graham, who Soros has long funded, and Republican Ohio State Governor John Kasich, who Soros funded to become president in case Hillary Clinton lost, all of whom, along with their Soros-funded Democratic Party allies, have brought the Russians are coming hysteria meme in America to a level not seen since the Cold War. As Soros is now using his financial might to corrupt and destroy the Republican Party like he did the Democratic Party, this anonymous global report concludes, the only obstacle now standing in his way is President-elect Trump, who even now, while being assaulted on an hourly basis by the Soros-led mainstream fake news propaganda media, is showing no signs of backing down against this evil Nazi monster who he must destroy for the sake of the whole world, as well as his own. The American dream is not that every man must be level with every other man. The American dream is that every man must be free to become whatever God intends he should become. We are anonymous.